My friends were here. That's the only reason I came here in the first place. And it was closest. And in terms of art schools, it was the cheaper of the ones. It spoke to me, like watching Dexter's Laboratory, or like, I always wonder like how they get that to work. And when I figured it out, I was like, doesn't sound too hard, so I'll do it. Screw it.
Since I was 5, I loved photography. My mom gave me a disposable camera, and I was the person going around family reunions, taking photos of everything and anything. I wanted to go to an art school, so I didn't want to go to any regular college where I can minor in photography, major in like art or business. I knew I wanted to major in photography.
I was at a school before this where I did a lot of coding, and then I moved over to the Art Institute because it said, oh, this is more fine arts. It's more getting into like clay models, into 3D models. So I was like, exactly what I want to do. Let's do that. I didn't really pick animation. I wanted to do modeling for games and stuff like that because I prefer games over animation. They made the school sound like it was very exclusive. They made it seem like I could maybe get in if I was lucky.
I originally was going to do graphic, but then Sarah Summers, she's just like, oh, I love your work. I've seen what you do. Why aren't you in animation? Like, let's put you there. Like, she literally, like, that day was like, all right, we're going to sign you up for animation. Did my open house tour, absolutely loved it. My mother made the joke. She's like, look, there's you everywhere. I'm like, Mom. The reason, like, the Art Institute was my place to go was obviously from the commercials. Because my dad's like, hey, you know, hands-on training, who doesn't love that? So we're just like, sure, open house. I was like, yeah, this looks awesome. It's different. We didn't have as much equipment as we do now. Obviously, we have the Cintiqs, which I wish we had when I first started here, because that would have been a nice learning tool to start on. Obviously, just mostly for 2D animation.
I wanted like a photography degree, and the Art Institute's basically like the only place, or one of the only places, to offer solely like photography. If I wasn't in school forcing me to do these different assignments, I don't know if I'd be shooting as much, and therefore my work wouldn't have progressed kind of at the rate it has. In high school to when I, my first couple quarters, there was a growth, and now there's another growth.
I've always been passionate about writing, and I've loved movies, so I figured since I'm not that great of a writer, I can probably make it into a movie. So I kind of want to write and direct and act in my own stuff. A couple of teachers who have changed some of the ideas in my mind. Like I had one teacher, Chase, he was absolutely awesome. He's helped me build my confidence where I was unsure of what I could do, and he said, get my butt out there and do stuff every weekend. Find out what you can do. You might not be the best at lighting, but maybe you're good at camera. And that's, I took his advice to heart.
I got my bachelor's at Wittenberg University, which is in Springfield, Ohio, so not that far from here. And then my master's at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana. I hated my biology classes, and a very good friend who's very insightful said, you always complain about your biology classes, but you seem to really love your literature class. And she was very right. And so I switched majors. I've been teaching at the Art Institute for 8 years.
I have a master's in mass communication, radio television specialty from Eastern New Mexico University. I've been teaching now at AI for over 5 years. There's an emphasis on bringing in faculty who do have real-world experience.
I have a BA in fine art from San Diego State and an MFA from University of Cincinnati in fine art. Design fundamentals, color theory, like your basic design foundation courses, film survey, storyboarding for film, storyboarding for animation, perspective drawing.
I do actually like the smaller class sizes because I know if I was in a lecture hall with 300 other people, I wouldn't have made it.
You get that alone time time with teachers where you're like, hey, I need help with this. Can you help me?
They kind of wander into the school because someone told them that this is what they should kind of be doing, or you need to go to school.
I think the thing that really sold me, and definitely sold my parents, was the success rate of the school. Because for a school to claim that they have such a high success rate, which I think it was like 81 or 82% of the graduates like got a job within the 6 months that they graduated.
The art street is very strenuous. Like it's a tough school to go to. While it's easy to apply and get in, it's a tough school to stay into.
Some of these people leave because they can't handle the schooling. They just want to be there because, oh, art is fun. Oh, art's going to be great. It's harder than it looks.
You have to want it and be able to do it at the same time. And where that meets up isn't always there.
There's work involved. You know, that learning is hard and it takes time and effort.
And I got here, and the first couple of quarters, it was cool, but it diminishes after a while because it's school, so you know, school kind of sucks ass.
There's a lot of differences from what I was told to what actually was experienced. I really don't think that the school was 100% honest with us and on what they were going to teach us and how they were going to teach us. For the price that I'm paying, I'm not getting the education I expected to get. It almost feels like I'm getting a partial education.
Part of what makes a school successful, I think, is having the students feel good about where they've gone. Now, there always are complaints, but feeling connected so that then they say, I went to the Art Institute and it was great, you know? But I can't imagine that anybody says that.
Any complaints that I made or any praises that I made seem to have gone unnoticed, and just it almost made me feel like my opinion didn't matter. The biggest part of the education that I got was actually connections with people and also confidence.
All the faculty that I've encountered have been well qualified, very passionate about their students, wanting to do you know, the best for the students.
I want my teachers to be experienced, and I want them to have been in the field doing whatever we're, you know, trying to master. So if they haven't, that strikes a chord with me. It bothers me.
I can bring my background, my experience into the classroom, and you know, try to give students a picture of the real world of what it's like out there.
It's been an uphill battle. Since I've been here, we've had 3 or 4 different photography directors. Other people kept having to step in to cover until we had a new director.
We've also gone through, I want to say, 3 or 4 department heads, which is throwing us off like big time because no one knows exactly what the one before was doing or what the next one's going to do. And that's really hurt a lot of our educations.
We only have 2 instructors for photo right now, and if we lose one of them, it can really hurt us in our graduation.
A lot of them don't even teach us. Like last time, I was in motion graphics, and we were on Video Copilot like for 4 projects. I'm like, if I could go home literally. Video Copilot, a lot of the videos he showed us are free. I could go home and get a free trial to After Effects and do this myself. So it's like, if you're not gonna teach it to me yourself, I don't see the point in you being here. But they're not all like that. There was a guy who I knew who was in an animation class, and I don't know the teacher's name. I wouldn't mention him if I did anyway. But apparently, they were teaching a class that they didn't know anything about. Like, they pulled out a book and tried to study the class and then teach it. Like, that level of incompetence is just not, I don't like stupid things and I don't like stupid people. That is stupid to me. I feel like, why would you do that if we're in a college where we pay shit, like unbelievable amounts of money to be here, and you got a teacher that would do that? It's just completely just bullshit to me. That's not acceptable.
They actually put a film person, a film director on animation. He didn't belong there, so he was like, I don't know how to use this program. Do this. Do that.
And he was like trying to do it himself, and it was just a mess.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Every quarter I have 2, maybe even 3 instructors who it's their first time teaching that class. One of my favorite teachers found out the day before class started that he was going to be teaching lighting. And he was actually a good teacher, but he was so ill prepared, and it wasn't his fault. I have had some really good instructors. And I've also had some not so good instructors.
There are just some people that should not be there.
Traditional, 4-year college, you'll spend the first 2 years in general education classes, and when you get into your actual major classes, still a lot of the work will be classroom work, theory work, and you might have 3 or 4 classes out of your career that are actually in the lab, hands-on, working in the studio, something like that.
I was supposed to have a mix of my core classes and general education, and yeah, I ended up having to take all my core classes at the end. One of the things about the school is it's supposed to be hands-on, and that's what I was told. It's a huge hands-on thing. Well, unfortunately, some of the teachers, they tell you to go shoot something, but then they don't tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and we have no idea.
Before, we were always constantly getting new photo students, so they would have to have the base classes only, and then we had a few seniors, so they had the senior classes.
Most of the programs, I don't know them because I haven't taken them in a class in the school. I would know them if they, would let me learn them. I've been trying to get in there, but they always say it's full or it's not available this quarter or whatever, which is stupid to me. I feel like the core class should be available every single quarter. The fact that it's not bothers me. It pisses me off because they're throwing me all these gen eds and then I can't get the classes that I actually need or want to do. So it makes me lose ambition.
They have to do a teach out, which means they're going to stop offering, the same couple classes every quarter, and it's going to really open up and let me take what I need to take, which is terrible. I shouldn't have to have the school closed for me to get the classes I need. I'm in Lighting 1, and I've been here since July of 2013.
I was told that classes were offered at multiple times. It was impossible for me to be there at the 8 a.m. classes because my son didn't get on the bus until 7:30.
I was going to do BTTC back home just to do all my gen eds, and I called and I was just like, hey, if I do this, will it count? She's like, no, you'll just be wasting your money.
3 classes transfer out of 2 years of college that I did. I have my Photoshop certification. Why can't the certification count? I'm wasting money on a class that I don't need.
I've completely changed projects before from one thing to the other because of time constraints. It's like, I want to do this awesome thing and it's going to be great, and then I try to do it, just I don't have the time.
At the beginning, you're like, okay, I really want to learn. Well, no, instead of learning, I'm trying to get deadline after deadline after deadline. Then at the end, they expect you to know stuff. You get frustrated because you're like, I wanted something different for my portfolio. Here's the same thing I did before.
You're continuously required to sort of justify the number of people who pass your class or who are not doing well. They'll never come out and say your classes are too hard, you need to assign less. They never say that outright. You are not rewarded for having a rigorous classroom. So over the years I have reduced the number of assignments.
If I wanted to watch YouTube for 3 hours straight and pay someone $300 for that 3 hours, that's I'd rather be doing that at home. If I'm paying money to be taught something, not to watch a YouTube video, and then also have the teacher say, I don't know, let's Google it. That I've had that several times, and it's so annoying. I don't expect a teacher to know everything, but I expect them to at least come prepared to class. Like they tell me, come prepared to class. The teachers need to do that too. They should know what we're doing that day and already know how to do that. It actually cost me a job not being able to learn the graphics machine in the class that is supposed to deal with graphics. I'm almost a straight A student, so if I'm getting A's and not learning something, there's something wrong in my opinion.
I was like, this seems really easy. Are you... She's like, my superiors actually won't let me make it a hard class. They say I have to make it an easy class. It was like compositing for film, storyboarding. She flat out could not make them any harder because her higher ups said she couldn't. I felt like those didn't help for my portfolio. Those pieces are very lackluster. They're very basic. They're not going in my portfolio.
In terms of industry standard, I think the school is fine with that.
I think they got enough for me, for my preferences. Maybe not for everybody, but they have enough for me because I basically just animate on Flash and stuff. I don't do all the 3D modeling stuff as much as everyone else does.
One of the other big complaints that I have about the school is the kits that we got. I got a 2 terabyte hard drive, external hard drive, and they charged us $800 for it. When I looked it up on the internet, it was selling for about $300.
So did they buy top of the line equipment? Yes. Could they have bought cheaper equipment and bought a whole lot more of it? Yes. They didn't consult like a photography professor or like a photographer of like what would be the best to have in the room or like to have at the school. They just went out and bought kind of like the catalog, you know, what should we have, you know, not what actually is applicable.
If we really wanted to get like a good, obviously like camera to do stock footage of anything, we can't.
We have to do it on our phones. Almost every student has had to do something on a phone or a laptop.
Or an iPad.
That's infuriating. Like, I should be able to check out what I want to so I can accomplish what I need to.
I actually work in the student cage checking out the equipment gear, and we get so much stuff in there that is broken, partial kits, things like that, and we receive very little training on anything other than the HD 150s. They're teaching us one camera, and none of the students even know about some of the other ones. Unfortunately, there's only like 2 good cameras with 3 good lenses. So the students that do know about it fight over the gear. I almost would think that I could get gear when I need to, but I ran into a whole quarter where I couldn't get anything just because people were playing the system. They're not even from the school anymore. They graduated a year ago, but they're still getting the gear that I need to shoot my thesis film. And when I actually tried to sit down and talk with some of them, I got blown off. Like, oh, well, you know, your stuff doesn't matter as much as theirs.
Toon Boom is an animation program that
Never
they
used it.
have. The school has it.
Never touched it.
They don't teach it.
The 3 years I've been here, I've maybe opened it once.
Like our photo studio, oh my gosh, it's nice, but it could be a lot better because the ceiling is a standard height ceiling, so we can only adjust the light so far. So we're having to get creative in like how we can position people and position lights. Like at this point, we started having people sit on the ground to get that overhanging light to do certain lighting setups. There's a closet in there full of stuff. Literally, like halfway through this quarter, so a couple weeks ago, we found out we had like all these soft boxes. We didn't even know. Like our professor didn't even know that some of this stuff was in there.
I have the monthly subscription for the Adobe products, and I think they're 2 years behind on everything. They got 2014 and 2016's already out.
Rendering, it could take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes a scene to hours. So we don't have the dedicated software, let alone these computers can barely run anything. And it's sad that we're still putting in service requests for computers who die and they don't fix them.
I had to bring my own laptop because we ran out of computers. Like, we couldn't do it. And then at the end of the quarter, there's no chance you're getting on a computer.
You even have some professors who, you know, we ask to sit in on their class. We're like, hey, you know, would you mind if I like go use the computer in the corner on the other side of the room?
When they have like 4 students in the entire classroom and you get no.
Because if you need a computer lab, for example, sometimes you can't find one that's open and it's like, all right, you got a project due and you don't have After Effects at home, so it's like, all right, I gotta get on the computer, fuck. And when finals week, you know, there's just people all over the fucking place, so it's like, if we had more fucking rooms with goddamn computers in it, I'd be able to do my fucking project, but god damn it, I can't, so fuck.
The years I've been there have accumulated more and more equipment in the cage and in the studio and so on. But it still seems like that when the crunch comes to the end of the quarter, there's never enough stuff to go around. So yeah, you could always want more.
A lot of the resources were not up to my expectations. I'm paying a pretty good price to go here, and I've been kind of complaining about equipment for the whole 3 years that I've been there. You know, I have computers that take 10, 15 minutes to start up, cameras that are broken, other cameras are completely outdated. I mean, pretty much everything's digital now, but yet we're still recording on tape for several things.
a lack of appreciation for education, I think, in general, and the idea that I think that it should be easy.
It's bad when some people that have been here for so long, they start to ask you, oh, what program did you use? Like, how'd you make that? I'm like, I used Photoshop or Flash. And they're like, oh, I wish I knew how to use those. I'm like, yeah, you're 2 quarters away from graduating. How do you not know how to use these programs?
There's students that don't even know how to use a clapboard. And yeah, they've been there for 2 years. We spend half the class trying to figure out what we're supposed to be doing, or how to get the camera to run right, or things like that.
For some of the students, they really are not interested in learning. I mean, they're not interested in education. They're interested in the degree, but they're really not interested in the work that a degree entails.
To be honest, I am really surprised that some of the students who are still here are here.
Not everyone puts in the same amount of effort. So when students fail, it screws the rest of us over. That's another reason they kept offering the same classes, because people kept having to retake them.
I mean, it's like high school to them. When they're challenged, they can't meet challenges. They don't come in prepared, and there's no like requirements for them to pass to get in. So there's no challenge for them to come in, so they don't take challenge well when they get there.
I work so hard, and yet you're somehow gliding by. Why? It makes me feel kind of defeated.
There are some people who we will not name, but we know who they are, that literally sit in class on their DS playing video games while critiques are going on, and you're just like...
And they walk out of the room
what
and
are
make
you
the
doing?
teacher angry.
I had a student tell me very excitedly that he was going to come to class on time and be awake, and I was thinking, yes, that's the minimum expectation. I'm not, there's no gold star for that.
Kind of glad they're closing. Stick it to the man. It's karma. What can you do?
When I found out the art institute that we're at is closing, I can't say I was that surprised. I went to a meeting so they could kind of squash some of the rumors. They gave us half-assed answers. I realize they don't know everything, but to sit there and almost lie to my face, that really ticks me off. And that's happened too many times. If I ask someone a question and they ignore me or blow me off or just completely give me half-assed answers, that drives me nuts.
Of course, the term losing accreditation, I was like, I don't know what that means. Asked my dad, he's like, that's not a good thing. You need to find shit out. So I did, and the school's like, oh no, we're fine. We're still accredited. We're all good. It's just, unfortunately, our branch is shutting down. So, and when we ask why, it's just like they're going about these roundabout answers, and I'm like, you're not answering my question.
I'm going to them with a problem, and they're saying my problem doesn't matter, or they don't care enough to answer it. I hate that. I think that's ridiculous to do that to students.
It's very confusing why we're closing, considering like you see all these students that want to come in, you see all these students that are paying so much for the school, and then we don't see many upgrades. We saw the Cintiques, but that doesn't take as much money as what's really there.
It feels like one of the reasons that they're closing is because everyone who started there realized how much of an education they're not getting.
It's too bad it's closing because I've enjoyed teaching here. I'm sure they will keep their commitments to teaching through students that are here and want to stay to the end to get their degree, or make other accommodations for people.
I mean, that's the I guess the company, what they said, and I guess I don't doubt that.
I'm too far in at this point. Like, if I leave, it's just like, I'm not going to go to another college. For me, it doesn't matter, but it might matter to other people, because that's why half the school left already. So it's like, well, I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much. I thought it would, but it doesn't.
Our school is barely reputable as it is. No one takes us seriously to begin with. At least no one I've had a conversation with has. So with us closing, I mean, like, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. If I leave, I lose all my credits, I lose all the money I've spent, lose the time I've been here. I lose, actually getting my photography degree versus something else, focusing in photography or whatever. So I'm stuck here. That's the only reason I'm still here.
I think that it's the personal experience of the students that have gone there and said, don't go to this campus.
You know, if you spread your business too wide and your product gets diminished, there's potential backlash, and I think that's probably more of the case.
I know nothing about that. I only know same things that you know, same things I've heard in meetings.
I believe those lawsuits are most likely those students that had to appeal that didn't get it or didn't put in the effort.
Had mentioned about the lawsuits, and I was just like, that's a little weird. And I know sometimes it will recirculate on my Facebook feed. I don't know, it's iffy. There's a lot of rumors going around, and if you try to ask questions, no one answers it properly.
I feel like the students that don't put in the effort because they think, oh, I can slack and be fine, and they end up failing a class, or they end up getting, they miss too many classes, so that their attendance policy kicks in, and they don't realize it, and they want to blame someone else instead of themselves.
I had a conversation with a student who was, it was after the announcement, and so I was just asking him what his plans were, and he said something about how, well, if I went to a university, it would be much more expensive. I said, well, the school that you go to is very expensive, and it depends on the university. So if you go to UC, you know, relatively speaking, that's not very expensive, or Cincinnati State, you know, it's practically free. I mean, it's not free, but it's so inexpensive to go there. And he just didn't have any idea. There was no one there, to, I guess, to guide him to ask the appropriate questions.
It sounded like it was going to be a spot-on school for what I wanted. It sounded like the degree was going to work adequately for what I needed it to.
When you're going to school, like you're responsible for your own actions. So if you get baited and switched, if you get taken, if you have these unrealistic expectations, it's kind of on you as a student. You know, if you're paying that kind of money to do something, you owe it to yourself to do research.
I've had quite a few problems with what I expected and what I got. I feel like I'm not learning what I need to learn.
That's one mistake you should never make, because I didn't do any. I just thought, whatever, who gives a shit? My friends are there. I don't have anywhere else to go. I want to be an artist, so fuck it. Let's just go to AI. And I didn't do any research on it at all. I should have, because now that I do it, I like get on the internet and I see all these people writing bad reviews about the school and stuff. And that probably would have stopped me from coming here. Maybe. It might have stopped me from coming here. It might not, but I don't.
I often feel that students are not given very good advice. If you are a first-generation college student, you might not know the questions to ask. It doesn't seem fair to then require that student to then do the research. Admissions people are very good at pressuring and selling. They're predatory, so they try to attract students, or they attract students either purposely or just like, that's just the way it is, that are not prepared. They're set up for failure.
Could I have researched more? All I could have done was found a different school. If you actually look up the RNC online, there's like nothing listed.
Part of it is the way that the school is marketed, and certainly the way it's sold. Hearing the admissions people sort of talk about some of the classes, and like they really try to make it like fun, and some of them are fun, but the fun to me comes from like the work.
People would go running from the school if they had 5 minutes to sit down to talk to most of the students. Everyone does the tour as if mom and dad's walking with you, you know. They just, you know, they only show you the shiny new toys and the best of this and the best of that.
It's definitely more about the business than it is about the students. I think the schools mislead us. That's the best way I can say that.
When your end goal is profit, then you do things that are probably unethical. You're not really looking out for the best interest of a student.
You want me to sum all of that up into like a 10-second sound bit? Okay.
I wish it was a little more upfront with me about that.
If you come out of there with a good portfolio, much of this won't matter because you can say, look, this is what I can do. That's the thing that will matter. Less, the degree itself.
I don't want my degree to mean nothing to an employer. So that's my fear.
I mean, I'm not even that far in because I still got 2 years to go. So I don't know. I hope so.
I believe like I'm going to learn all I need to by the time I graduate.
I graduate in about 25 days, I believe. I guess maybe I thought completely wrong, but I kind of figured that within 6 months I should have a job, a good job in the industry that I got a bachelor's in.
I've looked at LinkedIn because that's where we're told to go. And most of the jobs there say they require 2 to 5 years experience in the program. And I'm like, does this count? Do I have that?
We need real world experience, and honestly, I thought going to that school, that's what I would get. The director just gave me the email from the person that was to him. I had no idea about who he is, what he does, or anything like that. Very limited information about it. And he kind of talked me out of it, said, no, you shouldn't do this internship.
At this point, I have 1 quarter left, and I feel extremely unprepared.
One of the biggest challenges is trying to get that through to students. Like, just because you were told that you will get a job when you graduate, it's just not the case. It's impossible. There's no school in the country that can guarantee you a job.
Maybe they don't exactly say that, but they definitely imply it. What the job is expecting of me at some of the places that I've tried to check out, and unfortunately some of them were nowhere near what I'm capable of. I mean, the school either has low expectations of what they want, or maybe the real world is far beyond what anyone's capable of learning. And we all know that's not true, so.
I go back to my high school every now and then because I have a couple teachers there that I go visit. And one of them has asked me and some other people that have graduated to come in and talk to her classes because she does that, like, it's called like college and beyond. So it's like getting you ready for college, like what you need to know, looking up information about schools, all this kind of different stuff. I literally, because she asked us kind of the same questions you're asking. And she asked me if I would recommend it. I said absolutely not.
I probably would have recommended it for at least 80%.
My friend Lynn is here because I suggested it to her. I feel bad about it, but if the school wasn't closing and it started to go uphill instead, yeah.
Probably not, because I don't like the environment here.
To me, the only people that should be going to film school are people that really want to be DPs or editors maybe, and that's mostly just to meet people and to work on those projects and network. From my perspective, I think it kind of is limiting and it makes it a little bit of a small fishbowl and maybe doesn't challenge or open students up to maybe some of the real world stuff that they might face in these majors. So
Again, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have come here. I would have done something. I would just not be here though.
I don't think I could recommend people to go to the Art Institute. There's probably other schools out there that cost a lot less and they can get a very similar education to what I received.
I would never recommend anyone go to the Art Institute in a million years. I probably wouldn't even recommend someone teach there. I just can't imagine someone comes out of the Art Institute and say, that was great, I feel like that was money well spent. I mean, I don't keep coming back to that.